So first off, let me just say welcome to leveraging Chat GPT for AI and for marketing. We are very excited to have you here today. This is a topic that is obviously a unbelievably hot topic, especially with 560 of you all registered to join us today. Let me start off by telling you a little bit about myself and then telling you, letting Lillian introduce herself to you a little bit. So first off, my name is Tim Klabunde. I'm a principal here at Timmons Group. A lot of you would know of me. I'm as a fellow from the Society for Marketing Professional Services. My history and my industry time in this career inside this industry has been well over 2 decades. And what most people know me for is being somebody who breaks the box. I'll say I was blogging in 2006, 2007, long before it was cool. We were early adopters in social media. And I will say the piece that helps me be successful with breaking the box, you could also call it, by the way, being at the bleeding edge, is that I have a knack for only keeping what works. I'm very adept and happy to walk away from what doesn't work. And I will say, potentially we're a little bit at the bleeding edge on this topic, which just makes it more fun for us. That particular skill set has led to a lot of growth. Timmons Group, where we're at right now, is when I got here was about 235 people. Today we are a 900-person civil engineering firm. We've been on Inc. 5000's lists of top growing firms in the United States for over 6 years now, and honestly, it is a lot of fun. And we love leveraging unique tools and coming up with different ways to do things.
Yeah, that was a great introduction, Tim. I actually followed a little bit of Tim's structure for the 3 things about himself when I put together my introduction too. I'm Lillian Minix. I'm a marketing communications manager here at Timmons Group, also located in Richmond alongside Tim in our Richmond headquarters. When I thought about those 3 items that I wanted to mention about myself, it was really about improving connections, delivering that content succinctly, and communicating conscientiously. What those 3 things mean to me in my career is, making the connections, not only just making them and checking off that box, but following through with the connections, building those relationships, creating valuable experiences for our internal clients, for our external clients, and for our online audiences. We also really take the time to deliver our content succinctly, and that has helped me also communicate conscientiously when we think about the content that we create at Timmons Group in communication specifically. Our team is hopefully leveraging all of the industry resources that we have and really making sure that what we're putting out into the world is doing good and is beneficial for our industry. So that's a little bit about myself. Yeah.
Well, perfect. Well, now we have one other speaker today that I'm a little bit nervous about. I will tell you, I have given a lot of presentations in my life, and I've never been this worried about a third speaker, which is we are going to be joined by Chat GPT today. Now, Chat GPT, we asked it to give us 3 of its traits. It gave us adaptable, knowledgeable, and personable, which I'll let it speak for itself. But I will tell you, if you ever wanted to see a webinar go wrong or go south, this is your opportunity. We are going to be going live with GPT during part of this for quite some time, actually, and it could absolutely go horribly wrong. So anyways, we will test out our AI counterpart. For those of you that recently read the work that Bill Gates put into, I think it's a 7 or 9 page paper on AI. I will bet that this is not going to be the last meeting that you are in where an AI is joining that discussion. And if you haven't read that paper by Bill Gates, by the way, I actually consider it a pretty good one. I highly recommend it. We will probably send it out in our link of resources afterwards, reminding me that there will be a copy of this presentation that comes out afterwards. The other piece is, let me tell you about Timmons Group just a little bit. So Timmons Group, this is a real clean basis for those of you that don't know us. We don't sell marketing consulting services. Actually, we're not selling you anything today. We just wanted to share what we've been using ChatGPT for. Quite frankly, we are a civil engineering firm, landscape architecture. We like to say we do everything 5 feet outside of a building footprint is kind of what we do. So we're not selling you anything. Sorry. If you have questions afterwards, if you want to connect with us, you can absolutely do so as friends, but I don't have anything to sell you. If you have a job going primarily primarily on the East Coast that's some civil engineering related, give us a call. We'd love to help you out with it. But we are not selling GPT services or marketing consulting services in any way, shape, or form. I do want to tell you about our agenda. It's going to be a pretty straightforward agenda here. There's 3 primary parts to it. Lillian's going to kick off in 2 seconds here, talking about the background of AI. What is Chat GPT? We are going to talk about other AI models as well, but Chat GPT will be our primary today, why it matters, and basically some background into AI and how it's going to be utilized inside our industry and some of the guardrails we need to put in place for it. The second thing we're going to do is we're actually going to go live demoing in how we're using Chat GPT, where it can be used and where we see its most effective tools and uses today. And quite frankly, that's the one that has the chance to go completely sideways. It's going to be lots of fun. We'll see what comes up with it. And we are going to have time for Q&A at the end. Please make certain that you toss those Q&A in the Q&A box. So as we get to that point, by the way, you can toss those questions in at any point while we go, and we will be addressing those as we get through the program.
That sounds great, Tim. I appreciate your faith in me that nothing could go wrong with the first half of this. You know, that's putting a lot of faith in me. I'm really excited to kind of dive in. So background of AI, how did we get here? Where is this conversation even coming from? You know, we sent out a newsletter to a lot of you who have registered with us. And if some of you might have found us on LinkedIn or other social media channels as well. But when we put this newsletter together to reach out to people on this topic, the question, it's a huge question in our industry, specifically AEC marketing. Where is AI coming from all of a sudden? It's really made a huge impact in our everyday lives for many years, but all of a sudden now it's available in our marketing and office space. And that's a really unique juxtaposition that we didn't have before. So we've seen AI, artificial intelligence in GPS navigation. We use it all the time, whether you're using Google Maps, Apple Maps, Waze. We see AI and facial recognition when we log onto our phones. There for a while, we also saw it when we used our fingerprints to log onto our iPhones. Shout out to those of us who remember that. It's been several generations ago that iPhone did that. We also use AI, you know, social media algorithm, everything that you touch every day, your Alexa, when you ask the Alexa the news in the morning, or Google Home. So when we experience all of these things in our everyday lives, it's just an interesting juxtaposition, because now we have the opportunity to apply that same knowledge in a language model that is applicable for what we do in marketing. And, you know, between Chat GPT, Google Bard, Microsoft Transformer, these language models just didn't exist up until a few years ago. And Chat GPT, I think, actually, correct me, Tim, if I'm wrong, Chat GPT made its debut in November of 2022. So we're really at the forefront of this conversation, like Tim said, you know, the bleeding edge. And we hope that what we find here today can help you as well. So a little bit of a background of how we got here, and now moving into what is AI language modeling. AI language modeling, for lack of better terms, and also I'm not a subject matter expert in language modeling specifically, but language modeling is the ability of a coded program to prioritize and create a probability of a string of words. So if you think about predictive text, we're all used to it. We know exactly what language modeling is. It's been in our lives for a very, very long time. Google Chrome, when you use the Google search bar, you might say, Google, what is, and it would fill in the rest based on previous searches or based on what is popular and trending at the moment. It might fill in language modeling. What is language modeling? We've used that for years and years and years. We have also used predictive text on our iPhones or Androids. That's something that we've seen for a very long time. And I'm sure, again, that iPhone users can unite in frustrations with autocorrect and not predictive text. We've seen it, but we've never had it in front of us in a resource that we can apply to our jobs. And so that's why we're here today. That's one of my favorite parts of what we're discussing. So quickly, how does it work? Again, not a coder, not a developer or a subject matter expert, but what I can tell you is that language modelers work in pretty much 3 steps. across the board, regardless of what kind of language modeler you're using. They will all start with step 1, collecting data, step 2, comparing data, and step 3, optimizing an output for you. Collecting data, a language model will collect data from the internet, news sources, video captions, social media. It will pull information from a tweet or from an Instagram post. It will pull information from a CNN news report or an MSNBC, newscast. It pulls information from real sources all over the internet. And once it has that data, it will actually compare it for you based on your prompt that you give it. So step 1, collecting data, to step 2, comparing that data for you. Then we move to step 3, based on your prompt that you put in Chat GPT or any other language model, it will combine steps 1 and 2 to create a preferred output for you, the user. So it's really interesting because it actually will rank things, Tim. I don't know if you knew this, based on best to worst in the content that it can produce. And I think that Tim's going to show us exactly how that works, because one of the more unique features with that optimizing output is that if you don't like something, you can ask Chat GPT to do it again. So constantly optimizing that output for you. So once we understand what Chat GPT is and how it works, not just Chat GPT, again, we're talking about all language models today. I think our conversation tends to be more focused on Chat GPT because that is one of the premier language models on the market right now.
We're using all the time, so that's it.
Yeah,
Anyway.
Exactly. And as a team, like Tim said, that's the one that we tend to use quite a bit. But it's human nature to want to know how things work and why they work, which is why I just gave us a little bit of a background and an explanation of how it works. But not only is it human nature for us to want to know that, it's going to be actually really crucial to how we implement it and how we use it in marketing strategy. That I think is going to be the key for, putting all of these pieces of the puzzle together. So I'm going to start, I kind of have, this broken out into 3 slides. I'm going to start with, the first slide here is how can we use Chat GPT or other language models conscientiously? That word conscientious is making its way back into my vocabulary very, very quickly and very, very frequently. Tim knows, by the way, that I have kind of a word of the week, and I think my word of the week is conscientious this week. And it's a good week for it because when we're talking about language models, we have got to keep a few things in mind, right? Language models, because they pull online resources, the internet, these news articles, tweets, other social media that we were talking about just a second ago, those were all written by real people. And real people are not perfect. And real people have opinions and bias that exist on the internet. And when we use Chat GPT, we've already kind of had this conversation internal in our marketing team, but making sure that we're staying away from inherent bias as much as possible. And that is tricky. Let me tell you, it's very, very hard. Everything that is on the internet is susceptible to bias, which means that everything that you're using, all of the content and resources that these language models are using is susceptible to bias. So as long as we're keeping that in mind, moving forward, Chat GPT and these other language models should be a little bit more workable for us. Writing voice is another thing I want to keep in mind, and then brand identity. These kind of go hand in hand. So the AI language model is created and coded to, I'll read actually off the screen because I kind of like how I phrase this. It's designed to scratch our instant gratification itch. People nowadays consume content very quickly, and we want it at an arm's length at all times. And AI knows that. Specifically, these language models know that, and they lean into it. And that's great, except when they produce content for you that you then don't reformat into your own voice. And I think that we can, in turn, also lose a little bit of brand identity, too, if we're not careful with that. So those are all 3 things that you want to keep in mind with conscientious marketing when we're talking about how to apply these tools and these resources. The second thing I want to touch on briefly is learning how to use Chat GPT technically. This is what Tim is going to focus on here in a few minutes, but I wanted to touch on a few things before he gets started so that we can have a few cornerstones and guidelines in place in our minds before we watch Tim do his live demos. So when we think about how to use these AI language models technically, there are a ton of tools. I mean, Tim, you're gonna touch on quite a few of these, but these built-in tools that Chat GPT specifically offers could be anything from citing sources. If you ask GPT to help you write a blog or an article about a certain topic, it will break sections for you with subheaders and subtitles. I find that really helpful when I'm blocking out an article flow. So sometimes I get stuck in a brainstorm crutch where I don't really know how to separate out an article, and ChatGPT is very helpful for that. There are extensions for web browsers available. It can grammar proof for you. It can summarize for you. Tim's going to show us all of the ins and outs of, technically speaking, what ChatGPT can do for us when it comes to writing proposals, qualifications packages, project profiles, all of that. So utilizing those built-in tools. In conjunction with that, making sure that you're researching your content, because again, we can go back and point at that, that the content that GPT is pulling from online is not always accurate, and GPT cannot always deduce the difference between fact or opinion. And those are things that we have to think about, right, when we are reusing the content and repurposing the content. And then there's the good old nothing better than a real human when it comes to reviewing your content. So choosing a trusted colleague to work with that's on your team, or maybe even a third-party proofer or reviewer outside of your own team. AI is not a human, and it's not perfect, and people are not perfect either, but there's still nothing better than running your content through an actual person.
I think this is one of the most important pieces of this point, which is we can't trust the small. What we're going to show you is some really impressive stuff coming out of it, but at the end of the day, it's creating drafts for us. And at Timmons Group, if we didn't have someone reviewing those drafts and actually working with that content, we would be using it incorrectly. So this really becomes humanizing. What comes out of it becomes probably the most important aspect of this part of the presentation.
Absolutely. I love the way you just said that too, Tim, humanizing it, right? This software and this resource was built by humans, and it's meant to interact like a human. It's still not human. And again, like you just said, we can't emphasize that enough. Also, because it's not human and you do have humans right in front of you, utilize your team, set team expectations, and you follow through with those. We'll walk through these pretty quickly, but it's basically, I think that one of the biggest pieces to this as well is understanding the potential uses of ChatGPT and these other language models, using them as a resource and a tool rather than as a linchpin or kind of an end-all be-all, right? We don't want ChatGPT to be the cornerstone of what we produce as far as communications or marketing resources goes. We want it to be a tool, and understanding not just its uses, but its limitations. Honestly, knowing upfront that the content that it produces at any point could be flawed, or it could be inaccurate. While it produces amazing content and we're really excited to use it, we do have to kind of keep in the back of our minds those handful of limitations that it has, because it's not human, and that's okay. So then kind of the third note here would be setting team expectations. I think that this one, again, with the third, in conjunction with the third note on the last slide too, Tim, is making sure that you have parameters set in place, guidelines, guardrails, like you said a few minutes ago, at least in the back of your mind when you're going into using a resource like this. We have had plenty of conversations. We've had trainings already for our team that Tim has hosted, and plenty of amazing conversations have come up. Well, do we want to use ChatGPT for this solution, or can we use it in this instance? And that's a great way to go about having the conversation, because if everybody's not on the same page, it could be used in some, more or less like questionable ways. So making sure that your team, and honestly, we're about to have a yearly summit. We have 2 a year, and I think that we'll probably be having conversations about ChatGPT and our expectations at that meeting. So just setting aside time to understand the parameters with your team, I think is a great opportunity. I'm going to run through these benefits really quickly, actually, and then Tim, I'm going to let you take over a live demo.
Perfect.
I know that folks are pretty excited to see this tool in action, and I'm also excited myself. So let's see, benefits. We've got enhancing grammar structure. I already kind of walked through that a little bit. If you ask ChatGPT, can you analyze the grammar of this sentence or this paragraph? It will. Or you could even put in a paragraph that's already written, ask ChatGPT to summarize it or reproduce, reword it, and it will fix grammar that way too. And all of that will help you expedite your projects. I know that I've already used it several times in, like I said, writing articles, creating social media content, and it makes my life a lot easier as long as, again, that we're using it properly. Again, making that comment about how you can create conversations and this tool can help you brainstorm. We use it internal at our communications team at Timmons Group for that often, and have already done so here in the past several months. Tim's going to talk a little bit more about market research, but I've seen that in action as well. It's very impressive, improving proposals, helping improve engagement. And Tim, I think you're also going to talk about creating some drafts.
I am, yep, absolutely.
So I think that, I kind of wanted to touch overall on the concerns, some of the larger conversation about AI language modeling and what our concerns are, but there are a ton of benefits also. I don't want to scare anyone into thinking, oh gosh, I don't want to touch AI. It seems like more of a hassle. It's not. It will likely make your job and your life easier, but there are just a few things we wanted to touch on before Tim shows you the fun part. I'm the bearer of bad news is what I feel like, honestly. So Tim, I'm gonna flip over for you and let you get settled, and you just let me know when you're ready to start sharing.
Okay. And so here we are. We're going to go ahead and jump in to GPT now. And first thing I want to note here is, clear up my screen for you, is this model up at the top. We are, by the way, in Chat GPT at the moment. You'll see at the top of my screen, I'm actually running off of language model 3.5 as opposed to the 4.0. 4.0 came out about 2 weeks ago. To be honest with you, we haven't found it to be as fluid as 3.5. Also, this is the part of the presentation where everything is about to go wrong. If something can go wrong, this is the place it's going to happen. So I'm going to use a little bit more stable of a model, which is the 3.5. And we'll go ahead and get going with Chat GPT. So good afternoon. I need your help with a presentation. So you're going to see basically, for those of you that haven't used GPT, we're just going to start dialoguing back and forth with it. By the way, you have to work with my typing right now, so my apology for that. I will try to type as fast as I can, but I need you to answer 4 questions. So one of the first things that we started using GPT for was market research. And let's go ahead and dive into a little bit of market research just to kind of show you how we're using it. So let's start off with market research. Let's say I'm looking to identify what civil engineering firms, which we are one, are our competitors in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm going to say, can you give me a list of civil engineering firms? Charlotte. So you'll see basically it's going to punch out a list of other civil engineering firms in Charlotte, North Carolina for me. Now that's nice. The reality is we could probably just brainstorm that very quickly, but you can start adding additional things in your dialogue. Honestly, one of the biggest pieces that I've seen people not understand how to leverage GPT the best is by not refining their questions. So I'll say this, I'll say, can you add their websites? And you'll see the more I start adding additional information, it's going to take the same data set and it's going to start modifying the information. Can you also add a local Charlotte? So you'll just now note, I just now asked it to provide me addresses for each of these firms as well, but it suddenly dropped off the website. So in a search string like that, what I'll end up doing is I continue to refine as I'll say, I needed addresses, ignore that spelling, and websites. So the more I do this, the more it's going to start refining the search and start really generating out good content. By the way, one thing I actually have used this for several times now has been generating lists of targets. So I could say instead of competitors, I could be looking at firms that are developers in Baltimore where we have an office, or a list of architects that are in Raleigh, North Carolina where we have an office. So, and then as you start asking it for additional information, it'll start just piling on. I could ask for an office contact or other pieces of information as well. So honestly, one of the first things we started using GPT for was just doing market research, or just a really quick way to get lists and information. You can make it longer just by saying, you add more firms to this list, and it will provide additional firms inside that region as well, just as quickly. And you can see it's actually picking up the algorithm that was up above, where it's still giving me the website and the addresses for those offices as well. Now we can continue to go through and refine that search to get to exactly what we're looking for or what we might be hoping for. So really market research is kind of 101 with it. I will note this is that a lot of these searches that you'll find is currently today, GPT is the model we use, and its data set ends in 2021. Interesting enough, I pulled this list up for Richmond, Virginia, where we're located. And when I actually pulled up the list, it provided me with the name of one of my competitors who was bought out back in 2022. So you're going to basically know at this point in time, the language model stopped its generation of data in 2021 off of the internet, so they could build out the model. In the future, I anticipate they will be running ready with new data sets coming in off the internet simultaneously. I can't imagine the amount of computing power this takes. So that's kind of a really unique use for it. But then I dive in and you kind of want to learn a little bit more. Let's say I'm looking to, I don't know as much about Tim's Group projects. So I'm actually thinking about some of my own projects. I'm kind of, let's say I'm a marketer and I am out of our Arizona office and I'm trying to determine what projects we have in Richmond, Virginia. I can say, can you provide me with a list of Tim's Group projects in Richmond, Virginia? And what you'll see is it's actually going to go ahead and pull a bunch of our projects that we did in Richmond, Virginia. It's obviously using data off of the internet to pull this together. These can come from newspaper articles. We're often the newspaper for some of these, like Virginia War Memorial, something like that is obviously coming out of the news as opposed to off of our website. Some of these other ones I know are only presented in and on our website. So that's the second thing you can do. But what happens if I really wanted to know more about our K-12 projects? So I can just say, can you change that list to only show me education projects? So what we're finding is basically ChatGPT is actually working to help me identify even some of our own experience and things that are contained about Timmons Group elsewhere on the web. So you can, I did education, I didn't do K-12, so you can see it gave me a bunch of our university experience and work. So the second thing that we're starting to dig into or started getting into is how do we capture information in lists? By the way, I can do this as a competitive analysis as well. One of my competitors could very easily look to see what projects I've done somewhere, or I could just simply say, actually, I shouldn't go off queries I haven't done yet, but see BSU above, so I can say provide list of projects that Timmons Group worked on at Virginia State University. So basically, you can see it's going to pull up just those projects from Virginia State University. It's an easy way for me to really be able to dialogue and dig in. I will say I have seen some people use this to help build out resumes for people that they didn't know inside the firm, not inside our firm, at other firms. I'm not certain I propose that quite as much, especially with the data collection. My hope is your database can contain some of this stuff. I view this more as a project research basis type. So you can see there's a lot of project research that can go into it. Some of the other things, though, that we've found really can be additionally beneficial are actually when it comes to producing content. So this first piece there is identifying content. And again, make certain you're constantly refining what you're doing. You're going to see I'm going to refine a lot as we go through here. And that refinement of searches is what's going to make this successful. So can you write a cover letter for me for a proposal for, oh, let's go, City of Fairfax. So it's going to go ahead and produce a cover letter for me for the City of Fairfax. Now, this is going to be a pretty straightforward, I'm going to call it blase cover letter. And you'll see it does produce a decent cover letter. If you read it, quite frankly, I think that cover letter might be better than some of our competitors out there. But if I really want to have it help me out with the creation of content, you can see I pre-wrote this. I said, can you help me write a cover letter for a proposal for me? I need to have 5 bullet points that talk about our differentiators in this proposal. Our differentiators are quality control. Our project manager has strong K-12 experience. We have depth of experience in similar projects. We know permitting requirements, and our staff has worked with the client on 10 projects in the last 10 years. So if I give it a little bit more criteria like that, you'll see that the cover letter it's going to create for me is going to be much more specific to this particular proposal. A lot of you, I know, because I look at a lot of your proposals as in our debriefs, as I'm certain you do with ours. A lot of people use this bulleting type of formatting in there. So this helps you get back to some of that type of bulleting format. You can also see in this case, it really just didn't give me a very strong introduction. If I was to type that into a cover letter, it really wouldn't be very strong. So I can just say, can you, whoops, I'm going to keep mistyping this entire time, so just roll with me, everybody. But can you expand?
We're not judging.
Thanks, Lillian. I appreciate it. You expand the introduction. And you'll see basically it's now going to just take those prompts and really start to expand that introduction and give me a little bit more robust as we get going. And then it's going to drop into those same 5 bullet points we did before. So the key here is if you're helping you write a cover letter, and when I say write a cover letter, I really want to say draft a cover letter. Your idea and your goal behind it is to generate content in a very rapid nature that you're going to edit and respond to after you're done. There's lots of other things it can do for me. So this next one is something we'll get we have standards just like most of you do. That will be what's our quality control statement or something like that. But sometimes we'll get just a strange request or something. So I'm just going to do a simple one. Can you write a quality control statement for me for civil engineering, construction, drawings. By the way, if I spell things wrong, it actually does a really good job of knowing what I'm saying anyways. I've actually been shocked at how bad I can spell and it still knows what I'm saying. So right now it's just creating a quality control statement for civil engineering drawings. And it's interesting. It's down here, you'll say this is, by the way, I've done this 4 times now in prep for this presentation. This paragraph looks nothing like the paragraphs I've done the last couple times. One of the big things with this model is that they're trying to replicate exactly how it would happen if I gave the same objective to a marketer on our staff, which is every single time it's going to produce different content. So you can see at Tim's group, our commitment to quality is not just a slogan, it's an integral part of our culture. Is that a true statement or not? It's taken a wild guess at it, to be honest with you. So this is where you really have to take what you're getting out of the system and really try and refine it and look into it and see, do these things that it's pushing out there actually represent who we are? I could say the same thing about a landscape architecture or quality statement, or other statements, or I can just or I can ask it to, can you turn that into bullets? Maybe I wanted bullets and I really didn't want paragraph formatting. So you'll see here, it's going to take that same exact statement, it's going to turn those into the bullets that it was generating as our quality control approach.
Tim, I'll make a comment really quick, and that kind of goes back to the brand identity piece of this, right? And then if you're asking it to provide a statement about quality control, you best make sure that that is the company's statement on quality control.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
And that's that brand identity piece that we wanted to focus on.
Yeah, I'll kind of ad lib off of that as well. It's funny, the first time I saw this, my immediate thought was something I'd had a thought of previously, which was, oh my goodness, people are going to lose their jobs or something. When I had that thought previously was when computers first started coming into AEC, and InDesign didn't exist, all these software, and every single time I'm always worried about that. And the reality is, that's not the case. There's so much need for human engagement. It does require us to be more on our toes, because quite frankly, if you're just creating junk content, it's much easier to create junk content now. I think this is really going to help elevate the role of the professional service marketer who understands the true intricacies of what we do. Let me jump into another one here so you can kind of see how we're using it in the proposal process. Lillian, I'm going to jump a little bit into your world. I'm going to talk about blogs for a second here. And I'm going to just ask it to, can you write a blog for me on women and minorities in civil engineering? By the way, I always get a kick out of this. I literally have run this exact same blog several times. They are never the same. It is almost shocking how much difference there is. But you'll see, it's going to actually is punching out a fairly robust blog on it. I do anticipate, for everyone's reference, that we're going to see a lot more blogs coming, and because of the ability to produce blogs quickly, I think we're going to see a little bit of a drop in their relevance over the next several years, just because of how rapidly you can create the content. Diving into this a little bit more, you'll see it basically talked about about lots of different components and what's faced by women, minorities in civil engineering. It looks like it's talking about unconscious bias. That's the first one. I've never seen that one. So what I'll do is I'll just say, can you add some statistics?
Oh, I like that feature, Tim.
Yeah, and I've actually been really shocked about how you can see it's already pulling in, different statistics that really are impactful for this particular topic. But the problem, and Lillian, you were the first one that pointed this one out to me. You did not add that. I'd have to refine my search criteria again to actually build it into the paragraph, which is what it usually does. But one thing you noted out to me was, there's this question of, well, what are the sources? How do I know that only 8% of civil engineers are Hispanic, Latino, and 6% are African American?
Right.
So you can actually come back in after you do that and just say, can you provide sources? And I've actually been fairly impressed with how it's going to generate out those sources for something. So if you're writing a blog and you've just asked it to give you some additional data or sources, make certain that you run this. And you're actually, my opinion is, you should always be going back and checking those sources to make certain that the data and what's been cranked out above basically is built into there. I'm going to keep going here because we're going to make sure we have times for questions here. But typically, I could very easily, just by changing my criteria, get those quotes and those statistics embedded into the paragraph above. The next one I want to do, Lillian, and this is a fun one, just because we recently received the DEI award. That's something that we are passionate about here at Timmons Group.
Yes.
So I pre-wrote this was, can you write a press release about this? And then I said, Timmons Group will be recognized as winner of the GIS for Diversity Award for leveraging GIS in service of diversity and equity and inclusion. So basically, I'm asking to write a press release. And this is one of those ones we've been a little bit surprised about, is because press releases are so pre-formatted. It really does an excellent job at generating out press release formatting. Basically, you could go study a textbook and see how should you write a press release. You'll see it's doing an about paragraph about Tim's group. It says 400 employees. No clue where that came from. We have 900 employees.
It's because it's outdated.
It's outdated,
because it's
exactly.
Data, its data resources are old. That's fact checking for you.
Well, and this is the other. This is the other one. This is fascinating. So Brian Bortel, you can see his name right there. He is our CEO. It's called him out as the wrong title at Timmons Group, and it gave a quote from him. And just like those of you that write press releases know, marketing will often write a press release for somebody, and we will do quotes. But just like before, you're going to have to make certain that quote actually can come from that individual by chatting with them about it. I'm going to keep going here just because there's so many of these different pieces, and I think showing some of these examples is so beneficial. Project approaches. A lot of you are asked regularly to provide project approaches or help provide project approach baselines for a civil engineer who's working on a project, or in this case, I just put in a landscape architect. I just asked it to write a project approach for a landscape architect that includes a walkway to a school. The walkway is in an unsafe area, and I need to identify how to make the walkway path, the pathway safe for children who are walking to that school. A lot of you are helping your project managers to create content. The reality is they're going to rewrite the vast majority of what you give them, but we'll often go back to an old proposal or try and find something similar. We found this is a great way to create some content that you can give them to really work as a basis. They're going to completely edit and redo. Hope they completely edit and redo this. But you're going to see it's going to create a lot of that content. Just to clarify, you can make any paragraph that we're creating right now longer by saying make this 2,000 words, or shorter by saying make this 300 words. Word count is a great way to do it. But you'll see it broke this into identifying safety issues, designing a safe walkway, explains how, ensuring accessibility, and engaging with the community are some of the pull-ins it pulled out for the project approach for landscape architecture. And we will do the same thing for quality. Actually, I already did quality control, so we'll keep going. Let's talk social media for a minute, because I think this is going to have some dramatic impacts in social media. Let's go ahead and do a quick post for our Virginia Beach office. You'll see what I'm asking it is, can you write an amusing 50-word LinkedIn post about working as a civil engineer in Virginia Beach? I'm afraid to know what it comes up with. Okay. By the way,
that's great.
It is great. I've actually had several of these that were about waves and other things. The nice thing is every single time I've asked it this query, it's never come up with the same things twice. And I think that is fair. A genuine problem finding parking in Virginia Beach would be fair. So anyways, these are little ideas you can do to help create some of that content. I would say that I'm going to use this other one, which is I'm going to pull a page from our website. Just grab the URL. You'll see it in 2 seconds. I'm going to say, can you write social media post about this? And you'll see this is a page off of our website. I will show you the page. We're going to launch real quick here. So on our website, you'll see this is Lynchburg Utility Network Migration Services. This is the information it has about that. I'm just asking it to write a social media post about that. And basically, it's going to go in and do a quick rundown on that particular project, a really quick way to create social media content. We're going to talk about one other model in just a second that will even add to this. You can actually do the same thing with copying a URL from an actual post and say, can you help me respond to this social media post? Put in the URL for the post, and it'll give you some suggestions on that as well. Let's take the same idea. You can see this is the page I just now referenced, and I'm going to take that URL one more time. And let's say I want to edit my website, and I'm just going to say I want to improve the text on this page. Can you make any recommendations? So first off, one thing I can do is I can actually have it give me just recommendations about what to do. The second thing I'm actually going to do now instead is I'm actually going to say, can you rewrite this text to improve this text? I have to say the text on this page. And give it that same URL one more time. And you're going to see it's going to give me a project overview for this project. By the way, actually, one thing I really loved here is you'll see it gives me a little bit of an overview, and it gives me benefits to the community, our expertise, what our visuals are. It's amazing how these are always different, and a call to action as well. So it's taking this text right here and really, in my opinion, the formatting of it made some improvements to it and some things that we could do to really improve and grow our website. I'm going to do one more here, and then we're going to jump into a little bit of questions and answers after I show one other model off, which is I'm just going to say, can you write a fee proposal for me for performing a boundary survey on a 20-acre parcel? The cost is $18,000, and I'm looking for 1-foot contours. And we're going to go ahead and show that here. And you will see it's actually extremely beneficial for doing fee proposals as well, at least providing some baseline. I'll say my favorite part of doing fee proposals inside the system, if you generate them out much, is to wow, it gave me payment terms. You might want to check your payment terms. That's the first. I have not had payment terms show up in a fee proposal request before. What I've found to be more beneficial is to take an old fee proposal and just say, hey, can you make this about a 20-acre parcel survey? That way it's kind of mimicking your formatting and your information as well. So those are a couple of things that it can do. I didn't even get into proofing. You can toss a cover letter in here and ask it to proof your cover letter for you or just improve the text in it. I will say if you do that, the key that you have to do at the very end of it is you need to write in the text that says, can you tell me what you did different? Otherwise, you got to drop it into Word to see what they actually changed in it because it doesn't give you track changes as it's going. My assumption will be at some point in the future, there will be that. And just before we go, I do want to pull up, or before we go to Q&A, I do want to pull this up. This is the Bing answer to Chat GPT. Write a blog about women, civil engineering. And you will see basically, we just haven't found it to be, quite frankly, nearly as good using the Bing one. It's searching for stuff. It's going to pull some information on the web. Their basic, wow, it's doing better than it has in the past. Yeah, you can see it is actually not writing a blog for me.
It's not writing a blog. Those are just references. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is why we're not using the Bing one at the moment. There are a couple of others here. I'd suggest blog articles. Write Sonic is I've heard good things about that one. Copy AI is for social media. And then one last one here is Image AI. This was originally used for if you had a pixelated pixel, it will fill in the pixels and turn it into decent content. There's some other things it does, for example, removing the background on a picture using AI as well. Anyways, a couple of pieces. I hope you find those helpful as well. We're going to dive into Q&A because quite frankly, we have a lot of Q&A. So wow. Lillian, let me go ahead and dive into that and we'll see where we go.
That sounds great. It's in your hands because I can't see it.
I know, I figured that out. Adam, thank you. Adam Barnsworth said, I do the same, but I still find it amusing how polite we are to Chat GPT. Absolutely love that, Adam. You are correct. I don't know why I do it, but it is something to be noted. When I was doing the questions about addresses, Annalise asked me, do I verify the addresses? I did verify several pieces that were Timmons Group related. I have found that nothing that comes out of GPT cannot be verified, or that it all has to be verified is a better way to say that.
Exactly.
It is, yeah. Anything you want to add to that one?
It's a resource, Chat GPT is a tool. And again, we can't emphasize enough how the content that it's pulling from is only accurate up until 2021. Timmons Group and of ourselves, we've had 3 offices move since then. So it would be pulling inaccurate addresses at that rate. So yeah, absolutely, I would verify it.
Yep. I had several questions in here about the use of Chat GPT Plus. And yes, the answer is I am using it right now. It's $20 a month. The reason I'm using it is because it was all going to go wrong otherwise.
Worth it to pay for it today.
Yeah, it's guaranteed uptime. Most of our staff does not use the paid version. You cannot get to 4.0. They actually, I think they added 4.0 just to try and get more people to start paying them. I will tell you, I default to 3.5 even while we've had a paid license. So that is, anyways, there's your answers there. If you are having a hard time with uptime, it does somewhat guarantee that it will be up.
Yeah.
Susan asked, does our IT group have any concerns with this? Lillian, all yours.
That's a great question. I think at Timmons Group, we're very collaborative between IT and marketing, and we do kind of keep each other in tune with new processes that we're using like this. But I think that this more affects our marketing group than it would IT, because we're using this as a resource for marketing and communications. If at any point we did start to use this as an IT resource, we would have a different conversation with them, I think.
Yeah. Well, and I think this actually comes into an interesting note about everything on the internet. And here's the 2 points to it. You need to know whether or not you're paying for something or you're not paying for something. Several of the things I just showed at the very end were paid subscriptions. If you are paying for something, they are making their money because you're paying them. If you are not paying an AI, it means that AI is definitely getting all of your information that you're giving it, and it is learning from that model. So just try and figure out which side of the equation you're on as to whether or not you are, whether or not you are making money or you are being money made off of you, or giving the money, or you're the target.
I'll add to that, Tim. I understand a little bit more based on your response. I think that, the conversation that we're having about AI is very specific to just ensuring that we're staying on the forefront of the conversations. So that's, as long as we're staying on the forefront, and I think that we're golden.
Yes.
Yeah.
This next question, Matt Handel, of course, had this question. Lots of you on this call know Matt Handel. Nice to see you here, Matt. Matt's a good friend. He just said that he noted that I was being very polite to Chat GPT, and he noted that might imply that I have a belief it is a conscious entity. And given that, do I believe I'm enslaving a conscious entity? Thanks, Matt. I'm feeling pretty safe. I'm not.
Button on that one. That's better safe than sorry, I guess. Right? Yeah. Better safe than sorry.
Yeah. Andrew, good to see you here. Andrew Campbell, actually, he's one of our Timmons Group people. He basically just asked if ChatGPT is using the same data set every time, but I get different responses with the exact same query. That is correct, Andrew. It is giving us different responses every time, because it's the equivalent of giving a homework assignment to the same student every single day. And not letting them see their assignment from the previous day. Basically, it has no, all of the content it's creating is supposed to be fresh content. We actually talked a little bit over the last many months here about the issue of it creating content that is copying other people's content or something like that. And we have not had that worry as much, just because it will not put the same 6 words together that someone else put together unless it puts them in quotes. It is creating fresh content every single time, which is crazy considering how many times I asked them the same questions I asked today, and it actually was providing those same answers. So anything you want to add to that, Lillian?
No, I think that you covered it, honestly. Yeah, no, we got just a few minutes left. I want to see how many of these questions we can get through.
We are, by the way, guys, thank you for all the questions piling in. And remember, you can reconnect with us afterwards if you'd like. We've got, we're, of the ones I haven't even answered yet, we're still over 56 questions.
Wow, that's impressive.
Would you suggest staying away from AI language models if you're working on a confidential proposal or quals package? Great question. It depends on the AI you're working with. I believe, and what the current state is. Today, I would stay away from it. That said, I do know that one of the benefits of paying for Chat GPT, for example, is the stuff that you're putting in there is held in confidence if you're using that. if you look at one of our teams was just talking about using the Microsoft Teams Pro, where a chatbot will sit inside your meeting with you for an hour and create all of your meeting notes for you instead of having a human create your meeting notes. Something like that, you're literally paying for the service and you don't have as much worry. They actually create firewalls around it. But right now, if you're going off a free service, I would not put in things that are confidential.
I will add to that really quick, Tim. Even if you are using the paid service, just know that Chat GPT and these other language models are using previous user prompts to help you answer your prompt. So if you're putting confidential information in there, it might very well turn around and use that for someone else's prompt in the future. And that's a very scary thing. So.
I gotta say, my being personal with the Chat GPT has gotten a lot of feedback. Someone else, anonymous, came in and said that can you stop using "can you"? Thank you for that. I'm nice, so it's not my fault.
This is fun though, Tim, because actually when we were prepping for this webinar, the please tell us 3 traits about you. You and I did that a second time, and the Chat GPT responded with the word empathetic in one of our.
Yes.
In one of our trial runs, and that was mind-boggling to me. But so it's really funny because we do treat it as kind of an empathetic entity, and to that I still reserve better safe than sorry. That's.
Well, I'm going to respond to one last question here, which is how can we get a copy of this recording? There's 4 versions of that same question inside the question thread, and we will be emailing that out. Lillian is going to be, I think, posting this up very rapidly to our YouTube channel. So you're welcome to visit Tim's group YouTube channel, and then we'll be sending it out to all of the attendees. Like we said, we're not selling anything. We hope it was helpful to you. And I hope that to elevate our marketing professional services profession as we continue forward, and that this helps you in accomplishing that. So thank you for joining us today. Lillian, I will leave you with the last word.
I'm going to share our LinkedIn QR codes really quick for anybody that might want to follow us on LinkedIn. I forgot to do that sooner during the Q&A. So thank you to everybody that joined us. This has been an awesome opportunity for both of us to share our expertise in the industry. Again, connect with us on LinkedIn, connect with us anywhere else that you see us online, where I think we're both pretty visible online, and happy to answer any questions. Again, not a subject matter expert in AI or in Chat GPT, but we hope that what we have found is helpful for everybody else on the call.
Thank you, Lillian.
All right. Thanks so much, Tim. Thanks everyone for joining us on your lunch break.
Bye.